What does it take to truly be successful? Is it all luck? Are you born with it? Is it just for certain people? Find out in this week's book breakdown of the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. This is the book 3 of 50 I'm going to read and break down for you this year. Let's get into it. All right, this is an awesome book. I think for anyone who's interested or curious about success, successful people, and some of the ingredients or antidotes that make up that success, they would love this book. It's an easy read. It's got a lot of research in it, like simple to understand research, and breaks down some great stories and analogies that anyone can follow along with. And to start it off, it says here an outlier is something that is situated away from or classed differently from a main or related body. Another definition is a statistical observation that is markedly different in value from the others of the sample. So it's something that really stands out. So we're going to look at least 4 areas that this book teaches us on how to be successful, how to predict some success, and how to take the odds more into our favor. The first is a bit surprising, and it's looking at, a lot of times we know that certain kids can have advantages growing up and certain are going to have disadvantages. So for sure, the kids that have more love, attention, support, groups, sports, things like that, they're for sure going to have an advantage. But check this out. No matter where you live, what month of the year your child is born can really play a big role in how successful they're going to be. So let me tell you more. So in this study, first off at the beginning of the book, they're talking about a study of some medical professionals studying one of the healthiest societies ever, and they were looking at things like diet. Is it high in fat, high in carbs, looking at their exercise. And this community wasn't that healthy in what they were eating, weren't super active, and yet they were living much longer than other communities, and they had one of the lowest rates of heart disease ever in people 65 years and older. And with all the research these people did, you know what they found out? It's a accumulation of all the factors surrounding community. So talking with people, support, positivity, yes, not eating horribly, but eating okay. And it's interesting, hard to prove, because papers want to say, no, it's a certain type of diet or a certain type of exercise. Those things are important, but in this study, that wasn't the main factor. It was the whole community and everything they had set up. And they said here that they had to understand the culture that a person was a part of and who their friends and family were, and the town their families came from. They had to appreciate the idea that values of the world we inhabit and the people we surround ourselves with have a profound effect on who we are. So when people tell you be careful who you hang around with, choose your friends wisely, show me your 5 best friends and I'll show you your wealth, it's coming from things like that, isn't it? Here's a quote. Well, actually, there's a lot of studies here that you want to read the book that's showing the best Canadian hockey players growing up, some of the smartest kids in school, some of the brightest people in lots of areas. And you know what most of them had in common? They were born in the lucky month. And what's a lucky month? Well, depending on where you live, a lucky month is you being born right near the cutoff to be the oldest child in your school or in your sport section or whatever you're doing. So for instance, in the United States, if the cutoff is September, so if your kid is like September 15th, I don't know the exact date, but let's say it's September 15th, if they're born around September 15th or a few days later, they could be the oldest kid in kindergarten. Which, think about this, as a kid, if you're 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months older than your peers, you have that much more experience in reading, potentially, right? Reading, writing, you're bigger, you're stronger. When you're 5 years old and you have 9 months on somebody, what is that, like, I don't know, 10% 20% advantage on them, let's say 15-20% advantage on them, on how much older you are. And what's interesting is those advantages carry on every segment of your life. And a lot of people think, well, if my child starts off struggling or doesn't have it the best, they'll grow out of it. The research in this book shows a lot of times people don't grow out of the mindset of, I'm just average, I'm too small, I've never been picked first, I don't keep up with everybody else. They always keep that, which has a negative effect on everything in their future. So, because it says right here, most parents suspect and think that whatever disadvantage a younger child faces in kindergarten would eventually go away. But it doesn't. Just like a hockey team, the small initial advantage that the child born in the early part of the year has over the child born at the end of the year persists. It locks children into patterns of achievement and underachievement, encouragement and discouragement that stretch on and on for years. So now you can't always plan when your children are born, but if you're near the cusp of them being too old or too young, or the oldest or the youngest, it's better based off the research to let them be the oldest. And we're actually doing that with our second child. In fact, researchers have settled on what they believe the magic number true expertise is. How many hours do you think it takes to become an expert at something? And these would be practiced with intention hours, not just goofing around. You've probably heard this somewhere, but it comes from this book, 10,000 hours. So if you want to master something or you want to be great at it, you got to do it for 10,000 hours. Now think about how many hours that is. How many hours are there in a week? Let's say you do a hobby 3 hours 3 times a week. That's 9 hours in 1 week. That's 36 hours in a month. And you keep going, so at 36 a month times 10, 300, 400 hours or so in 1 year if you're doing it 3 hours a day 3 times a week. 400. To get to 10,000 hours, that'd be like 20 years. So you have to do a lot of it to become an expert at it. Check this out. We have seen that, or let me go back for real quick and tell you this real quick. So 10,000 hours is what it takes. What's interesting is that anyone can perfect things. You know, they've heard that, oh, someone is just born a genius, or they're just born special. There's studies, and I'll find the quote for you, that show it's not that way. There's no one that hardly put in any effort that they find that is the expert or top, and they were just born that way. And the contrary, they've never found someone top of the game, top of a certain subject, just an expert at something, who just got lucky, right? Oh, and the reverse is, they've never found someone who's put in 10, 15,000 hours of just die-hard effort and wasn't near the top or at the top of what they were focusing on. So that should be encouragement for you that, wow, hard work truly does pay off. It should also be an eye-opener that, wow, we all need coaches and mentors. We need people to show us the right practice, the right way, the right tooling, so we can practice for 10,000 hours and become great. So, what we've learned so far, when you're born plays a role in a lot of advantages or disadvantages you have as a child, which carries on into life. So if you have some control over that, or you have control of your child being older or younger in class, go older. Secondly, if you do anything focused for 10,000 hours or more, you're going to be one of the top people doing that, no matter what it is. All right? Third is this. Our geniuses, or people that have such a high IQ, let's say 150 or higher, are they way more successful than people who have a much lower IQ? There was a study where these people went around the country and found the top of the top of the top students, and they followed them through all aspects of their life. And you know what they found out? They said here, as we've seen in the end, Terman was concluded, who's the researcher, with more than a touch of disappointment, that intellect and achievement are far from perfectly correlated. You know, these super talented and gifted kids and middle schoolers and high schoolers and even college students, they went on to have achievement levels the same as just any random group of 200, 300, 400, 500 people you would select that went through this in the same country, went through the same type of schooling. Isn't that crazy? There's a threshold of around 130 points in the IQ method that once you're there, the advantages basically go away. Everyone that has enough intellect is basically has the same chance, or the brain power, I suppose, to focus and be ultra successful. People way low, like 80 or less than that, they're gonna have some challenges. And people like 150, 180, 190, while on certain things they can blow you away, overall achievement, they don't have that much of an advantage. And here's another reason why. Practical intelligence, so something that includes knowing what to say to whom, knowing when to say it, and knowing how to say it for maximum effect, has just as much, if not more weight than just basic IQ or analytical intelligence. So you can have lots of analytical intelligence, but very low practical intelligence, or you can have lots of practical intelligence and not much analytical intelligence, or you could be lucky like some super successful people and have both. And that's where IQ falls short. If they just have an IQ and not the people skills and the rest of it, not much is going on there. So here's what I was talking about earlier. No one, not rock stars, not professional athletes, not software billionaires, and not even geniuses ever make it alone, okay? So they have so many factors of either parents or teachers or business partners or the times that they were born into, like the computer era or the social media era or the war. So many factors and people and basically luck that were on their path, and they concerted their 10,000 hours, that's how they become the mega people typically, okay? And the last point here is that in Outliers, we saw that success arises out of a steady accumulation of advantages when and where you're born, what your parents did for a living, what the circumstances of your upbringing were, all make a significant difference in how well you do in the world. The question for so think about that. It's not just one factor. It's not just, boom, you're born that way, God made you the all-star or made you the loser. No. So many variables are at role here. So what can you do about it? Well, you can't personally do anything about when you were born, but you can choose things that are important to you or that you want to be great at or have a chance to be the best at and put 10,000 or more hours into it. The sooner you do that, the quicker you become the expert or close to it. Now, if I just wanted to be a guitar player, an expert guitar player, if I'm just messing around with the guitar all by myself for 10,000 hours, I'm probably not going to be an expert still. Would you guys agree? So what would I do? I would start that way maybe, but I'm going to look up YouTube stuff, and then I'm going to go to a coach, and then a better coach, and a better coach. Eventually, after 10,000 hours of progressing my knowledge and my hard practice, I'm going to be an excellent guitar player. And on IQ, while some of it may be the way you're born, but a lot of IQ, I believe, is the things that you're reading and listening to and the effort you're putting your mental waves towards. So to make sure you have enough IQ, don't just be brainlessly doing things like video games and reality TV your whole life. Read like these books. And obviously if you're watching this, you're doing that. Or listen to podcasts. Or go to YouTube or wherever. Look, we're in the information age. If you want to learn something or get good at it, you can. And by doing these things and more, it's all going to accumulate to your success story. And people will dig into your past and try to figure out, how did you become so successful? And I hope something that I put on this channel will help you along that journey. And I pray that you join me in the pursuit of greatness.